Well, hello again and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my wonderful, intelligent, gorgeous, very hard-working Disney castle-loving wife and co-host, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, sweetie.
So good to have you with us. We are recording this episode on Sunday, September 22nd, 2024. It's the first day of fall. Happy fall, y'all.
Ooh, that's exciting. Hopefully we'll start getting weather that corresponds with fall.
Yeah, maybe in late November, December for us here in Florida. But hopefully wherever you are, you're starting to get a little bit of maybe a crispness, a little chill in the air. Hopefully you're starting to get into that fall weather. The leaves are starting to turn. Whatever it is that makes fall for you, right, Michelle?
Exactly.
As for today's show, we appreciate that you joined us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. Also, we are on social media. We are on Twitter,
X,
at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you are on Facebook, come on over and join us for some good, positive Disney energy fun on our Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group. Also, we are on YouTube, and this episode is going on YouTube. The main topic will be on YouTube, and Michelle has put together a pretty good presentation for you. So after you download this through your favorite podcatcher or through our website, you will want to visit YouTube to see this episode.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get better at this and have it happen more often.
We'll see about that. Not so sure.
I know you're doing a great job with your live show every day, so that's
every
cool.
day. Some days. Some days I do well. I do it most every day, but do well. The jury's still out on that one. Anyways, if you want to find us on YouTube, and thanks to everybody who has recently subscribed to us on YouTube, our numbers are going up, and that's what we want. We want to continue to grow there. If you want to join us on YouTube, we are at Hyperion Adventures Podcast there. And if you ever want to contact us for any reason, please hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we love hearing from people. We love it when you share, whether it's through the Gmail or through Facebook, even better, because then more people can help celebrate your fun times.
Yes, that is a great way to kind of get in contact with us, to talk about everything, for us to get your message out there. If there is a topic you want to cover, we want to do that. Right, Michelle?
Exactly.
Yeah. So please hit us up at the Gmail account or any of these ways. Any of these ways work that I just mentioned. You can be in contact with us. The live show on YouTube every morning, Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. 8 p.m.
Wow.
Wish it was p.m.
Really?
No, I don't wish it was p.m. because that's bedtime for me, because I'm a weirdo. That's why I do 6:30 a.m. 8 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays for that show. And please be interactive there. I love it when people come and join me when I'm doing that show. Now, before we get into this week's main topic, we like to take a look back at the week that was, because we are the Disney podcast of positivity. And that means we like to focus on those high moments, those wonderful moments, those positive moments from the week that was. We call it My Favorite Thing from This Week. And when we do this, we always start with Michelle, because she's amazing, fantastic, wonderful, all things good in the world. She does the best research. You're about to hear that in just a couple moments. She also has the best lists. She definitely also has the very best favorite thing from this week. So, Michelle, what is your favorite thing from this week?
Well, my favorite thing of this week is, from when the last time we recorded, let's say, is that we had the unique opportunity last weekend to get together and meet some people we've been in contact with. We've had the opportunity to interact with many times, but never in real person. I think it was a historic event that it actually took place.
Historic.
That's right.
I love it. It's historic.
It is.
Put it in the archives. Mark it down.
Um, and it was actually two sets of friends that we got to meet up with. First were Frank and Jen Dillo from Theme Park Thursday podcast, Dillo's Diz. Like I said, they've been on our show. We've been on their show. We've been friends because our podcast started around the same time. But we never got a chance to really meet in person before. A lot of close calls that never happened until last weekend. So that was super duper special. And also we got to do a meetup with one of our favorite listeners, Sue from the UK, her and her friend Mandy. And we got to meet up with them and finally got that, had a glass of wine together. So that was fun.
Right. Yeah, those are both my favorite things from this week as well. They were wonderful meetups. The one with Frank and Jen, Dillo's Diz. By the way, you probably already follow them, but if you don't, please check them out. Social media, as the light goes on behind Michelle, because Scott is in the background. Please check them out. Social media at Dillo's Diz everywhere. They do a great show. They're very positive in the community. They're wonderful people. Our meeting with them wasn't super long, but it was nice and enjoyable. And we got to meet them and many, many other friends that were out there for the meetup. Some people that we've been in contact with on social media for a while as well, but had never met them either.
Right.
So it was all really nice. It was a wonderful, just a bit of a time in Epcot, just a short time, maybe an hour and a half. I think we kind of hung with them. They had things to do. We had things to do. So we kind of split up and went our different ways. But more than 6 years in the making. It was good to finally meet them. And as we put out on social media, Frank and Jen are everything you think they are when you meet them, right, Michelle?
Yeah, they're spectacular and so warm. And really wish we could have had more time together. That'll have to be a plan for the future for sure. But yes, they're wonderful people. And we're so blessed that they're our friends too.
Yeah, very blessed. Very blessed. And yeah, what a great meetup. What a wonderful, wonderful time that was. Speaking of great meetups, the other one you mentioned with Sue from the UK and her friend Mandy, who are out here for a 2-week vacation. We're luckily able to figure out a time to get out there. This all worked together with all of this and get out there and spend some time with them at the Villain's Lair at Top of the World Lounge and have that glass of wine Michelle mentioned and just have some wonderful conversation and enjoy. We sat there with them for a couple hours and like the time flew by. It was just so good. They're fantastic people and we're looking forward to, it's a long way away to the UK, whether we get out there or whenever they get back here, having more of those meetups with them because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And, we were really, really pleased too that Scott, aka Michael, was able to enjoy visits in both parts. So when we visited Frank and Jen, as well as when we visited Sue, he seemed to also have a good time with that, which is really special because he's not always comfortable meeting new people or being around a lot of different people. So that was kind of heartwarming to us that he enjoyed it too.
Yeah, agreed. It was really good and just really, really special time. And just so happy that happened. A couple other things that I just want to talk about, favorite things from this week. A couple things we're watching or have watched. Agatha All Along started this week. Enjoyed the first couple episodes. I think it's fun. I can't wait to see where it goes. I don't know what Michelle thinks of that show yet. She was kind of, the jury was still out for her. But I enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to, excited about that. We're watching a new series that we hadn't seen before or just debuted recently. It's called English Teacher. It's from FX. It's on Hulu. Quite a bit more adult theming involved there, a lot of language. So know that going in if you want to check it out. But I found it very intriguing. We've seen the first 3 episodes of it so far. It's all about the school and this English teacher who also happens to be gay and kind of the things he's going through on a daily basis, dealing with today's students. And one of the interesting things about it, I find, is that it's like the music involved and the graphics are very 80s and the feel of it is very 80s, but obviously centered in today's world, right, Michelle?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is kind of unique in that regards as well. And like with any new show, it's interesting to see the characters as they're starting to come of themselves, So, we're anxious to see how it solidifies and how their personalities start kind of coming together more, how do I want to say, not fluidly, but, that it's more authentic.
New shows always take a little while to gel or figure out their point of view, and especially for characters to find their character and decide how they are. You'll see some characters come into a new show and be completely different by the end of season 2, for example. And, this could be the case here. It might not be. I don't know. But we have watched the first, and we've been intrigued enough to keep watching, and that's kind of cool. Yeah. Another thing I want to mention is not Disney, but we watched yesterday on Peacock the movie The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. And this movie is not going to be award winner for story or for best picture or anything like that. Not any, it's a good movie to just shut your brain down and kind of watch. But the one thing I think it really, really is it's a love letter to stunt people in Hollywood. Sure. Because there are, the stunts are coming, they're flying at you so hard. And this is a movie about a stuntman essentially, but stunt people generally. And they are flying at so many stunts, crazy stunts, amazing stunts. This gave a job to so many stunt people, an extra paycheck to so many dozens of stunt people and coordinators and pyrotechnics people and everything. And that's amazing about it. It reminded me of, this is a Universal, made by Universal movie. It reminded me of some of Universal's stunt spectaculars that you'll see in the parks, just into a 2-hour movie. I don't know what you thought of it, Michelle.
Yeah, totally. It's just a fun watch for sure. They're very good on screen together, and like you said, all the elements of the stunt people and what they do for films. It's like you definitely get a representation across the board of all different kinds of stunts and like you said, pyrotechnics and things like that. But yeah, it's. I think you captured it well when you said just shut your brain down and enjoy it. That's exactly what it was. Great movie to watch on the afternoon or just to hang and have a good time.
Yeah, just kind of fun. Just kind of a fun movie. And again, I credit to them for, giving all of these extra paychecks, like I said, to all these stunt people and the people that are involved in making sure that these amazing stunts happen. There are some incredible ones that take part in this. And I think that if you kind of are into that, you might enjoy it. So, check it out. Again, it's on Peacock right now if you have that streaming service. We did get some My Favorite Things from this week from a couple of our listeners. This one actually came in last week, unfortunately, because it would normally been under the deadline, but because we recorded on Friday, this came in later on Friday. So we didn't get into last week's show, but I do want to share it this week because this one came from Scott in Minnesota. And he said, my favorite thing from this week is my daughter, 2 weeks before school started, she decided she wanted to go out for the swim team. She made the JV squad. 2 meets this week and getting up for 6:45 a.m. workouts, and she hasn't complained once. I think she has found her sport. Oh, and she was asked to sing the national anthem at Tuesday's meet and nailed it. That's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations to her. And how fun is that? Yeah,
certainly something to be bringing you joy for sure. And so happy for you all and your family. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing, phenomenal news. And I'm sorry we weren't able to get into last week's show, but I'm glad we were able to add it to this week's show. This one also came in from Sue in the UK. I wonder what her favorite thing might be. She said, hi, Tom and Michelle, just dropping by with a quick favorite thing of the week before we pack up and head home tomorrow. They actually did just head home. Yeah. Obviously, we had an amazing time, but our favorite thing was meeting up with you both and Scott, who is darling last week. She said, thank you for taking the time to see us. And when I'm back again in a couple of years, I hope we can make it again. Definitely, Sue.
Yes.
If you find yourself in the UK at all, please drop me a message and we will meet up for dinner. Keep up the great work. Lots of love back to you, Sue.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for sharing that and saying those very, very sweet comments. We appreciate it.
Oh, and they were both, she and Mandy were so sweet with Scott, and he was
God,
so
yes.
sweet back to them. You could just, as Michelle pointed out, he is a great judge of people. And you could tell, like, he knew right off the bat that these were wonderful, wonderful people, and really enjoyed the time we had with them.
Definitely. And it was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, it was great. Really, really great.
Sorry.
That's okay. It happens. Let's go ahead and move on to this week's show. We have lots of stuff for you this week, including important dates if you're interested in the Polly's new tower. We'll talk about that. Also, a new Disney ship heads towards open water. A longtime Magic Kingdom dining spot unveils a new menu that we're kind of excited about. And there's been a change at the top of Disney Animation. We'll tell you all about that as well. But that's later. Let's go ahead and get to our very royal main topic of the week. So yes, for this week's main topic, hello everybody, we are talking all about the majesty of Disney castles. We've done that in the past. Last time we did it talking about the U.S. castles. Now we're looking at all the fantastic, the wonderful, amazing castles that are from abroad. So the other countries that have Disney castles. And what's mostly exciting about this is it's a Michelle research piece, which we all know Michelle does the best research. So you're bound to learn some fantastic things, some wonderful things, some new things. And I'm always excited for these because they are phenomenal. So Michelle, take it away. Tell us about the Disney castles from abroad.
All right. Well, thank you for that intro, honey. I felt like it was appropriate to wear my Disneyland Paris 30th anniversary scarf today because it features the castle there.
It's very pretty. You can see it there.
Thank you.
For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to this, watch us on YouTube and you'll see it.
That's true. That's true. You know, I think you've already given a good introduction of why we're talking about this. You know, the castles are, quite the iconic symbol for the parks. It, represents magic, fantasy, storytelling. And so I thought we'd, share some details about the parks castles around the world. Now, rather than doing okay, let's talk all about this one, then this one, I thought we'd look at some themes. And so the first theme I thought we could delve into is the design, the influences and inspirations that the Imagineers used to create these castles. Now, I know the predominance are castles from Europe, but they all have different styling and other architectural elements that make them unique and different. So let's take a first look at Tokyo Cinderella's castle. Now, as you can see on this, it's actually a duplication of the Magic Kingdom in Orlando's Cinderella's castle. And I know we've talked about in the past that Tokyo really wanted to have a Disney park. And so they liked what was already there. And it was easier than for the company to, replicate those things over in Tokyo rather than starting from scratch. Now, the chief designer for Cinderella's castle in the Magic Kingdom, aka now Tokyo Cinderella's castle, was Herb Ryman, who was the one who actually not only designed Sleeping Beauty's castle at the park in California, but it was his artistry of what the park should look like that really helped Walt and his brother get the commitment from the banks to fund that project. Now, we've also discussed in the past a lot that he took his influences, his cultural influences from European palaces and castles for the design of that castle, the Cinderella's castle, and it's beautiful. But let's look now at the next international park that came out, and that was in Disneyland Paris. Now, the Imagineers wanted to create a more fairy tale appearance rather than looking like a real world European castle. So their inspirations included things like French monuments and artworks that they found in museums to help create this, it's like flowy, and like I said, it doesn't look like a real life castle, right? It looks much more fantasy.
It's a beautiful castle. It may be arguably it's definitely I would say, and this is just from my point of view, the most beautiful Disney castle that we've seen in person.
Right.
We love all the Disney castles we've seen. We've only seen 3 of them in person. Of course, Cinderella Castle at Walt Disney World at Magic Kingdom, and Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. But we've also seen this castle, Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland Paris, and it is stunning when you get to see it. It's amazing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt there.
I'm glad you said that, but as you can see, the lines are very flowy. So this one, to me, was really amazing in my research of what I found. So the design is kind of a combination, as I mentioned, of different things. You can kind of see the elements of Mont Saint-Michel in the kind of the way it's erected and it flows. But they also took inspiration from some medieval artwork found in museums in France. I mean, things that date back hundreds of years ago in just books that they found images of castles, and then they used some of that, and you can see it. The roof pattern on this castle is similar to a building that was once a hospital in Burgundy, France in the 1400s. I mean, talk about eclectic kind of capturing of inspiration. The dome and the stained glass windows, especially on the northern side of the castle, is inspired by one that sits on top of Chateau de Chambord. That was a castle over 500 years history, and the influence of that castle came from the works of Leonardo da Vinci.
Wow.
Yeah. The other really interesting thing is in this next image, there are some tree-shaped twisted pillars. And those
I can see them there.
Yeah, right? And those were inspired by a church in Paris, Saint Severin. I don't think I'm saying it right, but anyways, the design of the church was made to represent palm tree forest. So it kind of makes sense that the Disney Imagineers saw that and adapted it to the forest in Sleeping Beauty. I mean, it's just, to me, stunning and unique how they've captured the essence of that other monument in Paris as part of this castle.
As beautiful inside as it is out.
Right. So I just found it's so fascinating, the details of how they took inspiration for that castle. All right. Speaking of another castle with some unique history in its design, it's the one in Hong Kong Disneyland. Now, when it first opened, it was Sleeping Beauty's castle, and it was patterned very much like the one you see in California.
That looks exactly like it.
Right?
Like you would think if you didn't tell me necessarily now, I mean, the backdrop, I could probably tell from the background, there's no Matterhorn near there. There's a few things missing. I'll be like, okay, this isn't Disneyland in California. But other than that, if you were just to give me the frame of the castle, it's nearly identical.
Right. However, they decided to make a change. And in 2020, they completely transformed it into what is now the Castle of Magical Dreams. Excuse me. Now, what's really great is, and you see this castle, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
They didn't knock down that original structure that was there. They really wanted to keep that in honor of Walt. So what they ended up doing was building on top of and around it to come up with that. Now, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you're getting to see in this next shot, it's just kind of highlighting the bottom section of the Castle of Magical Dreams. And as you can see, it does still contain the shape of the original Sleeping Beauty castle that was there.
So they just built up on it, essentially.
Right.
They built up on what was the base, which was Sleeping Beauty Castle, just like saw in the first picture, or just like you've seen at Disneyland. And then they built on it and made it even more glorious and wonderful and fascinating. And that's cool.
Yeah, I love how they left that brick look to it. They actually accentuated it more of a dark brick to really highlight. But, if you think about it, that the base of it is very similar to Walt's original castle.
Yeah. Again, you're definitely going to, after you listen to this episode, to get more context on a lot of this that Michelle is talking about, you are going to want to watch the YouTube video of this, because she has some phenomenal pictures pointing out some interesting things. That's fascinating. It's a gorgeous castle. Not that it wasn't a gorgeous castle before, but now what they've done with it is spectacular. That's for sure. So yeah, check that out, or just go online and check out some pictures of what it became before and after.
Yeah. Now, the architecture takes inspiration from 13 Disney princesses and queens. So it uses colors, icons, symbols, and patterns that are unique to each of those royals. And so what ends up happening as a result is it is an eclectic architecture castle design. I saw described as a mosaic. I thought that was kind of a good definition, mosaic of different cultures, because of these princesses and queens, their storylines coming from Europe, China, the Pacific Islands, and Southeast Asia, all coming together into this uniquely designed castle. Now, you won't see the princesses or queens' images on the exterior or the towers and domes, but they are represented with elements of those. So we're going to take a look at a couple of them. So for representing Mulan, you have Mushu on top of the dome, but you can also see in there cherry blossom motif throughout it. In the next image, you can see for Snow White, it has the apple, of course, on top, but there you can also see the apple pattern in the dome as well. Now, Elsa and Anna are combined, and they have a represented snowflake on the top of their tower. And also another example is Merida has a bow and arrow on there. And so I think it's beautiful structurally, too, of how they captured their essence.
Right. And for all you who aren't watching this on YouTube, you can see them, what they've placed these kind of at the top of these pillars, as Michelle was explaining before. So if they're there, and yeah, I love that I love that they've taken all the Disney princesses and given them a little touch of this. Because, this is obviously, it was Sleeping Beauty Castle, but now it's kind of transformed into a castle that celebrates all the princesses.
Well, 13.
That's right. There's been new ones added since this castle was built. So not every princess is there.
Well, there is a castle that represents all the Disney princesses. So that's where you may be getting a little confused.
Confused? That never happens. Did you see the promo from this week? I'm never confused. Never, ever.
That was brilliant.
I can't wait to hear more about that. That's great. That's good to know. But yeah, it's great that they celebrate so much of this history within these castles. And I guess we're going to hear more about that here coming up. Go ahead, Michelle.
Right. So let's move on to the Shanghai Castle, because that's the one I think you're thinking of, because it is the one that does represent all the Disney princesses. And one of the things when I was doing my research, and people have heard this, I know we've heard this, but I saw it over and over. So it was definitely a very key principle that the Imagineers were committed to, and that is the authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese elements in their design, their production efforts, etc. So let's look at that as we consider the Enchanted Storybook Castle that's in Shanghai. And so again, how they have done this is, like, for example, in the towers on the outside, they feature some traditional Chinese images like Chinese cloud patterns, peonies, which is China's national flower, magnolia flowers, which are an homage to Shanghai. So and of course they have the elements of the imagery of things that we would associate with Disney. So it brings together that authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese elements in this castle.
Yeah, and when you look at it, you can tell. I mean, it's got that regal feature to it that it's a castle. It's definitely a castle, but there's just something about the design that does shout something Chinese, Asian, for sure. There's that nuance to it that you're like, oh yeah, this is different. This isn't European. There's something different about it.
Right, exactly. And we'll get into some of the storytelling and the features of the castles in a moment. But I wanted to share some fun facts, more as they're related to the designs of each of these castles. Disney incorporated the assistance of a feng shui master who helped position buildings and objects at Hong Kong Disneyland in order to create harmony and balance. I thought that was kind of great that that. Yeah. Also in the Hong Kong castle, when they were renovating it, obviously they used high technology like 3D modeling to make the design, but at times they used helium-filled balloons to help them visualize the height of objects in perspective to the structure and the backdrop. So I thought that was kind of cool thing that they did. The other thing, and this one really was so touching to me when they were, preparing the transformation. They invited guests, cast members, community partners, and even some Disney friends like Mickey Mouse to put their personal dreams and wishes written down on magical dream cards. And then these cards, I'm going to try not to get emotional. These cards were placed in a treasure chest and lifted to the top of the tallest tower in the castle. And the reason they did that is they wanted to ensure that the heart of the resort would always be filled with hopes and dreams.
Oh, that's so wonderful and sweet and magical for sure.
Yeah. For Sleeping Beauty's castle in Disneyland Paris, as it was getting ready for the 30th anniversary, they were in need to do some restorations. I mean, building that's 30 years old, it's going to go through a lot of weathering. So the Imagineers actually sought out to bring in some experts, some French experts that were recognized in the field of historical monument refurbishment. Now, Tracy Eck, who is the art director of Walt Disney Imagineering Paris and the design and show quality, who was supervising that castle renovation project, said, and I'm going to quote her, "Some of the suppliers with whom we were lucky to collaborate on this project only work on historical monuments. When they accepted this assignment, we realized that they viewed our castle as a historical monument." Oh, getting emotional. That is part of our heritage, which was very touching. And I thought that, that was amazing. In fact, as I was reading on, they actually included some entity that worked on Notre Dame, just in the normal restoration of Notre Dame, and of course the sad, outcome of having the fire. Then after they were done with Disneyland, they were obviously getting back to Notre Dame to help with the restoration of that after the fire. But I mean, to think about that, the company and the artists who work on such a monumental showpiece as Notre Dame were the ones working on Sleeping Beauty's castle in Disneyland Paris.
There's some important people that know their stuff, know their architecture, know their techniques, their skills.
Right.
That's pretty amazing to actually think that that the same people that are putting together or kind of fixing up this Disney castle are the ones that are putting back together an iconic building like Notre Dame.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it just shows the reverence of the Disneyland castle for sure. Now, for Shanghai, the Enchanted Storybook Castle is actually the tallest, biggest, and most interactive of all Disney castles. And as I mentioned before, it's the only castle that celebrates all Disney princesses.
Yeah. No matter what I said. Don't listen to me. I'm not the one who does the great research here.
You were just trying to lead me in because I was so close to starting to talk about Shanghai.
It was all a setup.
Perfect.
You're welcome. That's what I'm trying to say here. You're welcome.
So let's move on to some of the concept of storytelling with these castles. And I took something from the Disney Imagineering website because I liked how they mentioned some things. First of all, they said, quote, "A castle is more than its structure. It is a building brought to life by the story it holds." So let's look at some of these storytelling elements that make each of them unique too. For Shanghai Castle, again, going back to the Imagineers website, I liked how they described it. They said, "It is a palace that celebrates all of the Disney princesses by giving a home to each of their stories and inspiring royals to inhabit their favorite tales. Within its walls, Enchanted Storybook Castle is resplendent with artful representations, thoughtful design, and opportunities to explore, from the once upon a time adventure walkthrough attraction where guests encounter Snow White, to the Voyage of Crystal Grotto boat ride that ventures into the castle's secret underground chambers."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So inside of the Shanghai Castle, there's a grand rotunda and great hall, and you can see, again, mosaics. They have an amazing chandelier, but they also have these regal banners representing all of the storybook princesses, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, with the interactive part, it sounds amazing, is, okay, so you follow this trail of pixie dust that leads you to a spiral staircase.
That's like following Michelle. There's always a trail of pixie dust behind her, too.
I wish. But there you'll find the magic mirror, and it, as they say, it beckons you inside through a portal into the fairy tale world. And then you, again, get to, is it incredible technology or magic? I'm not sure, but you do get to interact. It's a very immersive experience. You can talk and interact with the animated creatures. You can help them tidy up the cottage there with the dwarfs. You can wave goodbye to the dwarfs as they head off to work and actually confront the evil queen as she plots her wicked scheme. So,
that's funny.
I
I don't know if I want to. I'm on vacation. Do I really have to help clean up the cottage? Really?
Well, maybe you're managing, you're guiding, you're
that's
giving
it.
them advice.
That I can do. That I can do.
Now, beneath, as I mentioned through the quote from the Imagineers, beneath the storybook castle, the Enchanted Storybook Castle, is a water attraction called Journey to the Voyage of Crystal Grotto. And we've actually talked about this in a previous episode, but there you're going through caverns and you see little vignettes of different stories, such as Aladdin, Ariel, Rapunzel, and Belle. And there's a lot of lighting effects, music, water effects. So it just gives you, like, as you're going through, a chance to glimpse into the stories there. Now, this castle does have a dining area. It's the Royal Banquet Hall. It's beautiful. It's a great place to have a character dining venue. There are 5 princess-themed dining halls that include Cinderella, Mulan, Tiana, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. And the Disney characters that come around are actually dressed in their royal attire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Which one of those dining rooms, if you could pick one of them, which one would you want to be your first? I mean, obviously you'd want to do them all because they all have to be amazing, but which one do you think would be yours?
I want to say Tiana, but I have to say Sleeping Beauty, kind of being an original castle theme, might go. What about you?
I think Sleeping Beauty was the first one that called out to me, but any of them would be amazing. I think Mulan would be fascinating as well to see that. Yeah. But all of them, I just want to do all of them. For sure. I want to schedule each room. Or can we just have like a course in each room?
Right. That'd be cool. Now, inside Hong Kong Disneyland's castle, they have the Royal Reception Hall, and that's where you get to meet princesses throughout the day, so meet and greets. But it's also where they have bronze sculptures of the featured princesses and queens. You remember how many there were, honey?
No,
13.
13. That's what I was about to say. You didn't let me get to it. But yeah,
sorry.
I was actually going to be right, which is a rarity for me. So take it for what you want.
There you go. Now, in the rotunda, there are actually 13 columns also there. And at the top of each column, they have scenes from these Disney princesses, mainly their sidekicks or loyal friends, let's say. So Ariel's column has Flounder and Sebastian. Mrs. Potts, Chip, Lumiere, and Cogsworth is on Belle's column. Moana has her pet pig, Pua, and of course, Hey, right?
Her favorite rooster.
Right. So, so as you can see, they're incorporating the storyline there inside, even just on the column. So a lot of great details. And then on the floor is a paved medallion that has 13 flowers symbolizing each of the princesses and queens.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at some of the crown jewels of these castles and things that maybe are hidden gems or special elements that if you get a chance to go see one of these, that you might want to watch for. Have you heard it before? I'm going to talk about it. Have you heard of any that you'd think you'd be interested in checking out?
I mean, as far as what the crown gems or whatever are?
Yeah, some special elements about.
No, I haven't done the research because I know Michelle's going to do the research. So I haven't. I know that we've been to Disneyland Paris twice and we still have not seen the dragon at the base of Sleeping Beauty Castle there. I'd still like to do that, but I wouldn't consider that the crown gem of it all.
Right.
So I'm interested to find out what we do need to see and who else would be better to bring it to us than Michelle.
You're so sweet. Okay, let's start with the Disneyland Paris castle there. There's an oval-shaped stained glass window at the top of the main tower, and it is permanently lit to signify a royal presence, just like the Chateau de Chambord in France indicated when the king was present. So I thought that was kind of a cute thing that they have. Also in that castle, they have tapestries in the gallery, that authentic Aubusson tapestries. I don't, again, know.
Easy for you to say.
I don't know if I said that right. But those are made in accordance with traditional methods of master weavers with a legacy of over 500 years. So again, the attention to the historic details and elements in this castle are amazing. But one of the things that I found and thought was so cute, and that we are going to show you a picture here, is on the outside of some of their spires, their golden spires, they have snails. And the snails are also covered in gold leaf, and they look like they're trying to get away from the French cooks by climbing
They
those
cook
spires.
us here. We need to get going. Unfortunately, we don't move very quickly, so as hard as they try, they don't seem to really get away.
I know. But they're not cooked yet, so I guess that's a good thing.
Yet.
Now, also, as you mentioned, there is a dragon's lair in this castle or below this castle, and you want to be pretty quiet when you're walking by, because if you wake him, he's going to demonstrate his force for sure.
I'm definitely going to scream when we go by there because I want to see that. I want to see that happen.
Now, on another castle in Hong Kong, into that castle, as you remember, it started as a Sleeping Beauty's castle. So they have represented in there Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather. And they're actually spreading pixie dust across the castle's breezeway. And then it kind of filters into the lights, into the chandeliers, and leads you to the rotunda where there are 9,000 points of dancing light.
Oh, how sweet is that?
I know,
That's
right?
Crazy cool.
Yeah. And another interesting component of the castle at Hong Kong is that the Imagineers, when they were putting their, how many princesses and queens?
13.
Yes.
I have a bad short-term memory, but I can remember that far. Ask me in 5 minutes, I'll forget.
They recognized that the values of the princesses in Disney stories kind of evolved over the years, mainly in relationship to their dependence on men. So they wanted to be very mindful of how they displayed them inside the castle. And I found a quote from Amanda Chu, who was a producer with Walt Disney Imagineering Asia. And she said, instead of portraying them in a very submissive way, we portrayed them all as powerful women in a very engaging pose. So I thought that was a great attention to detail and recognition of, if you're honoring these princesses and queens, honor them for what substance they bring.
Right, especially since Disney for years was kind of criticized for maybe the portrayal of some of the princesses where they kind of needed a man always to save them. And that has definitely not been the case recently. But yeah, they are all strong in their different way, even if they did have some man come and save them at some point.
Right. Or maybe he was just a sidekick. Who knows?
Who knows?
But for example, with Jasmine, they don't have Aladdin with her on the carpet, so things like that, and just their poses, for like Moana being very, just very strong, but
showcasing who they are and what's important about them, and not having to bring anybody else into the equation to show that.
Exactly. So anyways, that's kind of a look at some of the elements that make these castles unique. We know that the castles play an important role within the parks. They're the center point, the heart of them. They weren't really designed to be necessarily an attraction, but more to draw attention and to inspire the fairy tale-ness of what the castles and the lands around them represent. So hopefully this gave you some more details of things to consider, an appreciation for what the Imagineers did to design these, and hopefully you like we want to capture an opportunity to see them. Do you have what would be your number one on your bucket list?
Since we've already done the Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland Paris, I think I want to see that one in Hong Kong that they've adapted and changed, and see, from the ground level where it used to be almost a carbon copy of Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland, and how they've evolved it into what it is now, and how incredible that is. I mean, I want to see them all, but maybe that one, I would say, if you just want me, if I could only do one, that might be the one.
I actually agree, and kind of for the same reason. So the one thing I do want to say is, for those of you who subscribe to the newsletter, and if you don't, you can sign up and subscribe. We will be in this upcoming episode, we're going to feature for you a little craft project, but it is where you can make your own paper replica of both the Hong Kong and Shanghai castles. So
wow,
that will be featured.
That's special. They put that together.
I didn't create them, so don't worry. They're artistry from Imagineers. They're not, the whole big spiel. But I think if you were...
It's not going to take up your whole living room?
No. But I think it's a fun little project if you're interested. It has the templates you can print out and color and cut out and create with the instructions there. So I thought that would be fun after this episode to share that with our newsletter subscribers.
Very nice. All the more reason to be signed up for the newsletter. It is full of Michelle-ness and including crafts, which you never got when I was the one who was the main person behind the newsletter. So it just tells you how much better it is now than it ever was before.
I don't know about that.
So great job. Michelle always does the best research, and it proved once again here in this episode. It always does. I always learn so many fascinating facts, new facts. 13 princesses. I still remember. I don't know if I'll remember that for very long, but for now I do remember that. But just so much fun, interesting stuff. These Disney castles are amazing, and Michelle does an amazing piece on this. Again, once you get done listening to this episode, go to YouTube, check out the video version of this. Should be dropping on somewhere around Tuesday, I think, depending on how it comes with the editing for it. But it'll give you even a more expanded viewpoint on this, because Michelle also, along with her research, did a great job of getting some photos to go along with it, which you'll want to see there.
I appreciate that, honey. Thank you.
And that is a look at the majesty of Disney castles from abroad. So thanks again, Michelle. Another amazing research piece. It's one thing that was brought up when we met with Sue in the UK. Is she's like, I love all these other episodes, but my favorite episodes are when Michelle does a research piece, and with good reason. You always learn some fantastic stuff.
Well, thank you, honey. I really appreciate that from both you and Sue. I do enjoy doing the research. I like to make sure that I'm getting very reliable information too with the sources. So I'm like you heard me quote a lot of the things from the Walt Disney Imagineering website, Disney Company website, and the actual parks website. So, but it is fun for me to learn these things too. So it's a win-win, I guess.
It is a win-win. It's a win for me, and it's a win for, I think, for all of you as well. So thanks again, Michelle. Great job, as you always do. Now, before we get into the Disney Stories of the Week, we're doing this thing where we are talking about one Lin-Manuel Miranda as we do our best to attempt to bring him on, or at least have him acknowledge this show in some way, shape, or form, whether it be on social media, whether it be a message to us. But hopefully what we really want is to get a chance to interview Lin-Manuel Miranda. And so we're bringing up little factoids every single week. We call this the Year of Lin. So every week for a year, as we build up towards Hamilton being on Broadway for, what is it now, 10 years, and being on Disney Plus for 5. That's what kind of inspired this, and that's how we're moving along through this. So I want to talk about something today that I found interesting because this week marked the 7-year anniversary. It's a little sad anniversary, but it is the anniversary of when Hurricane Maria decimated Puerto Rico. Really, I mean, it really crushed. I think it was the biggest hurricane to ever hit Puerto Rico, strength-wise.
Right, yeah. Definitely the most devastating.
Yeah. Just really gave them a tough time. And, of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda is of Puerto Rican descent. He wasn't born in Puerto Rico, but he is of Puerto Rican descent, had family that lived in Puerto Rico. And so he was one of the many people that rallied to try and help provide some aid to Puerto Rico after Maria really just nearly leveled what was going on there. What you may remember, it was probably the biggest thing, was that he had a new show of Hamilton debut. I think they eventually became a touring company, but they debuted in Puerto Rico, and he went back after, I think it was 2.5 years, and reprised his role, the lead role, as Alexander Hamilton to help with that. It opened on Alexander Hamilton's birthday, by the way, January 11th. That's an interesting date. January 11th,
birthday
2019. I don't know.
My honey.
Some guy who can't remember 13 princesses. Anyways, he did the role for 2 weeks there as returning as Alexander Hamilton, and all the proceeds went to charity to help kind of with that rebuilding and aid for all the people that were really decimated by Hurricane Maria. Also, you may not remember this, he wrote a song and had an extensive amount of people take part in it. It was almost a "We Are the World, but We Are the Puerto Rico" apparently song. The song was called "Almost Like Praying." It was released on October 6th of 2017. So, just a couple weeks basically after this hurricane went through. It was to support the relief efforts in Puerto Rico in response to Hurricane Maria, and proceeds of the song were donated to the victims and survivors. The song is composed of a compilation of names of all 78 towns in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yeah, including prominent areas such as Old San Juan. And it was sung by numerous artists, of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda, but also Jennifer Lopez, Camila Cabello, Gloria Estefan, Fat Joe, Mark Anthony. Other artists include Ruben Blades, Pedro Capo, Dessa, Luis Fonsi, Juan Luis Guerra, Alex Lackamore, John Leguizamo, Rita Moreno, Anita Nazario, Joel Ortiz, Anthony Ramos, Gina Rodriguez, Gilberto Santa Rosa, PJ Sinzuela, An Villafuente, and Tommy Torres. So it was an amazing group of people that came together for this song. It samples the song Maria, Hurricane Maria, from West Side Story, from which the line came, say it soft, and it's almost like praying. I got a little piece of that song here. I'm going to play it for you right now. Now, believe me, the lyrics are not just Puerto Rico. That was just the piece that I took from it. They do go through, and it's almost entirely in Spanish, but it does list a lot of the 78 towns in Puerto Rico. And you may have heard there at the end something that is interesting. They recorded the sound of the Puerto Rican coqui frog, and you can hear it at the beginning and the end of the song. Cool. Again, they're just trying to bring as many pieces of Puerto Rico into it as possible. The song debuted at number 20 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Billboard Digital Song Sales chart, selling 111,000 downloads and achieving 5.2 million streams in the first week of its availability. All proceeds going to charity. Lin-Manuel Miranda did many other things to help Puerto Rico, and that continues on to this day.
Yeah, so impressive. And he's impressive all the time anyways, but to take the time, I mean, obviously we know putting together something like this is not easy. You have to coordinate so many people's schedules and everything, that he took that time and the effort to do that, for that island. And it's very commendable. Yeah.
And just in basically 2 weeks time, and then continued it on with the Hamilton and everything else.
Right.
Fantastic. And again, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Mr. Miranda's people, we are happy to help with charitable issues if that helps.
Right.
Grease the skids to get Lin-Manuel Miranda on the show. We'll be in touch. One more thing I want to talk about before we get to the Disney stories of the week also is we had the chance last week. One of the things that we did last week when we talked about meeting with Frank and Jen and Sue in the UK and her friend Mandy was we did go to Food and Wine again out at Epcot, and we did sample a few more interesting things, right, Michelle?
We sure did.
Several things that we really, really enjoyed. First of all, I'm just going to be really quick with this. The fry basket is as good as always. I love the fry basket so much. The various different styles of fries, if you do the fry flight, they go together so well. There's a little salty, a little sweet, a little more savory, like kind of barbecue-y, and you can, you sample a little bit of each one, and it sends your palate into wonderful spaces, right?
Right. And even things that you would think that's weird to have marshmallow on fries, it works.
Right. It's really, really good. If you've done the fry basket before, and it's still just as good. Also, the yuca fries there. I love yuca fries. Very, very good.
Those were amazing.
Delicious.
Yes, very
they may be my favorites of it all, is the yuca fries. Very, very good. Also, something I tried was the bison chili, which was spectacular, delicious, and a very healthy portion. Like it... The problem with it is I think that there were a couple things, and I'll talk about the second thing here in a little bit. There was an extremely healthy portion that maybe we didn't get to try as many things as we wanted to because there was so much of that food there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're sampling dishes throughout the festival, you definitely want to share that one because it is like you said, a very generous portion that they deliver, and we all loved it. Yeah. We all sampled it.
We also
Scott
got
included.
the ravioli there. Was it a butternut squash ravioli? Or,
Yeah.
that was really good too. And then we had the pan roasted vegetables with Brussels sprouts and a few other
Right.
things.
Yeah.
That whole booth, spectacular.
Right.
We even got a nice stout there that was pretty good.
Yes.
And really went with those. Highly recommend. Which one? Do you remember the name of that booth again? It's the one that is right as you're going by World Showcase and that area, right as you're kind of entering World Showcase area. Michelle's going to look it up here as I go through. The other thing that I want to talk about is from the India booth, the tikka masala is very good as well. It's a little bit of spice, but it's another healthy portion of food. If you're looking for something a little heartier, it's very, very good. Get it with the mango lassi. Because they do go together extremely well. Enjoyed that as well. Highly recommend it. It was Forest and Field.
Right.
I looked it up. That was the one that we hit up that has the three excellent dishes that highly recommended. But again, the chili is hearty. So if you're looking to sample a lot of other things, maybe hold off on the chili until you can eat that and still eat a ton of other things. One thing I'll also say about this is it's a good thing we went back on Sunday because Saturday is crazy out at the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival. Every time we go on a Saturday, it's nuts. We didn't get to try anything on that day because the lines were so long. Sunday was really, really nice though, right, Michelle?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was night and day difference.
Yeah. So make your plans to go on Sundays, not Saturdays or other weekdays, depending on when you're visiting Epcot for food and wine. I think that's true. We've kind of found that for almost all the festivals.
Right.
Also, we stayed at the Boardwalk Inn, a 1-bedroom at the Boardwalk Inn. Michelle, what did you think of the 1-bedroom at the Boardwalk Inn?
I loved it. I wasn't expecting, from looking at pictures, I wasn't expecting it to be as spacious as it was. It really did, hit all the right buttons for us in terms of what we find comfortable. I mean, obviously the full kitchen and all the aspects of having, the appliances and the plates and silverware, etc. But yeah, I loved it. What about you?
I did. I enjoyed it. It's very roomy, much more roomier than I expected. The artwork in there is adorable.
Yes.
They have all these pictures up. That's artwork. That's Disney characters kind of in and around the boardwalk and some of the garden areas doing everything. When you do the fold down, the Murphy bed in the living room for the extra bed, there, at least in the one we were staying in, I don't know if the artwork is the same for all of them, but there is this adorable picture of Donald Duck sleeping on the bed and dreaming of riding the carousel with he and Daisy. And it's just to die for. It's so darn cute.
Yeah, and they have a lot of the artwork throughout. I mean, whether it's in the bedroom, the bathroom, throughout the kitchen, living room area, they have a lot of pictures like that. I think for a family to stay there, there's plenty of storage for, putting your clothes. There's actually like 2 closets. The one thing that I found interesting was in the kitchen, there wasn't storage other than the refrigerator, really, space for food. So like if you were staying there and you have food that you were going to be brought in to have ready to prepare some things, even if it was, breakfast cereals or whatever, they really didn't have cabinets. I mean, you could put it with the dishes, but they didn't have like separate, like some of the other DVC 1-bedrooms have storage for, additional cabinets if you want to put food items in there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just in case, if you're staying there for a long period of time and you have food brought in or you bring your own food or whatever, it's sometimes important. Some people don't even bother. They have a full kitchen. They're still going to eat all their meals at Disney, and that's fine too. But it is good to know just in case of that. As far as transportation, of course, you can walk. There is a walkway, really easy to get to Epcot. You can also walk to the studios, a little bit farther a walk, but you can walk to Disney's Hollywood Studios as well. They also had the Friendship boats going there. Maybe the Friendship boat's a little more convenient for Epcot than they are for Disney's Hollywood Studios because they are both the first and last stop, depending on which direction you're going. So it's the last stop as they're going through the Swan and Dolphin, the Yacht and Beach Club, and it's the last stop before they go to Epcot. And on the way back, it's the first stop. So it's very convenient in that regard if you can time a boat correctly.
Right.
But again, that means that to go the other way, to go to Disney's Hollywood Studios, you're going to be stopping at all those different resorts along the pathway both ways.
Right. Yeah. So in other words, if you are leaving the boardwalk to go to Epcot, it takes you directly there. First stop.
You're going right there.
And
correct.
if you're leaving Epcot to go back to the boardwalk, it's the first stop.
Yeah. I'm glad you can spell that out much more clearly than I can, for sure.
Well, I think what you were saying, though, made sense. That otherwise, the other resorts, they're going through multiple stops to get to their final destination.
But what I will also say about that is that there sometimes can be a lag time between boats there. So you may have to decide, do I want to sit here? It's not that far to walk. Do I want to sit here for 15 minutes or so until the next boat arrives?
Right.
Or do I just want to go ahead and walk? Whereas, we're comparing it to the Riviera, which, I don't think you can compare them aesthetically necessarily, but you can, as far as positioning between the Disney's Hollywood Studios and Epcot and the convenience of transportation getting there, the Skyliner, as long as it's running, which is most of the time, is continuous. So you're just pretty much hopping on one.
Right.
And the point values for, if you're using DVC points to stay there, are pretty comparable.
Right. Yeah. The boardwalk's a little less, but
not much.
Right. But they're comparable. Yep.
Yeah. So just know those for information going in if you're trying to decide between the two when you want to stay.
Right.
So, we have to do one more thing before we get to the Disney stories of the week, but it's a really important thing because we want to talk about our great friend Nate with Main Street and More Travel. Because let's face it, we all have trips we're thinking about taking in the very near future. Well, if you do, whether it be to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise, or anywhere in the world beyond, let me tell you, Nate is the certified Disney vacation planner that you are going to want to get in contact with.
Oh my gosh, for sure. As we, mention all the time, he really has firsthand knowledge of things, so he can really help you customize a trip that is going to be the best for you, answer your questions. It's really concierge level planning that doesn't cost you anything.
High end. It is high end stuff that he will help you out with, answer all your questions. He is there for you to make sure your trip, wherever it may be the best it possibly can be. And as Michelle mentioned, no extra cost to you. That's because either Disney or whatever other travel branch that he works through pays him for you. What you end up paying is exactly what you pay if you did all that work yourself. Only you can save that time and just relax and enjoy and let him set it all up for you.
Right. And you know what? He may even be able to save you some money from you doing it alone because he is on top of all the deals and steals that are out there.
Yeah. And there's never a guarantee, but let me tell you, if there's a discount out there, Nate will find it for you. So what you got to do is go to DizTripsandMore.com, fill out the form there, and just contact him, talk to him, tell him what you want to do, and let him get to work for you.
Right. So as Tom mentioned, once you fill out that form, Nate will be back in touch with you to start that planning, but be sure to tell him that Tom and Michelle sent you.
Yeah. Again, that's Nate with Main Street and More Travel. And Nate is great. If you're talking about, deciding between the Riviera and the Boardwalk, he is a DVC expert.
For sure.
He is also excellent at helping you if you need to have any tips on where you might want to stay, which one would be better for you. He will be great at helping you plan that out. Now, let's go ahead and get to the Disney stories of the week. I have a few for you this week. I'm going to start with their important dates you may want to know if you're interested in the Polly's new tower.
Yeah.
This we got from an email from DVC because we are DVC members. The Island Tower at Disney's Polynesian Villas and Bungalows is getting very close to being completed. And we learned this week that when you'll have your chance to make it your DVC home, if it's not already, and when you'll be able to begin booking at this wonderful, wonderful new spot within the Polynesian. So if you are a current DVC member, and that can be at the Poly or it could be anywhere else, any of the other resorts, on October 1st will be your date when you can buy in to the new Polynesian rooms there.
Right. So to add on.
You can add on. Yes. Thank you. You can add on to your total and have the Poly become one of your home resorts beginning on October 1st. Now, if you have added on or if you were already Poly DVC, if Poly was already one of your home resorts, like it is ours, this is why this date is highly intriguing to us. October 15th is the day that you'll be able to start booking your rooms at this resort. And obviously, since this is one of your home resorts, you can book up to 11 months. So that's important.
Yeah, you can use your points to book.
Yes, you can book with cash now.
Actually.
Right now, yeah. If you're looking, this is all points. I'm not talking about any cash bookings here. Everything I'm talking about is points. The only cash involved here is if you want to buy into this.
That's right.
And that's a lot of cash, but it might be right for you. Moving on, speaking of cash, sales will be open to the public. So if you're not a previous DVC member, but you want to buy into this, that is October 29th when you will have your opportunity to do so. November 5th is when new Poly owners, this wasn't their home resort before, or they didn't add on, you will be able to book with points beginning on November 5th. On November 19th, any DVC member will be able to use their points to book on that date. And then finally, on December 17th, that is when the resort is scheduled to open. There was some things out there that I thought I read that they're saying maybe there might be a delay. We passed by there on our most recent trip on a little monorail jaunt, and you could see everything going into place. The artwork's going up. The lights are on in a lot of the rooms. Right. It is going to be ready on December 17th. I definitely do believe that's true.
Yeah, agreed.
So, definitely want in. We're excited. We're already Poly owners. So this is just adding on to our membership. We couldn't be more excited about that. Moving on, a new Disney ship heads towards open water. This from the Disney Parks blog. They said on Wednesday, the Disney Treasure completed another milestone when it was guided by tugboat down the Ems River from Meyer Wharf Shipyard toward open water for the first time. The ship made its way past waving spectators who lined the river's shores to celebrate its departure. And during the next few days, the ship will go through a series of rigorous tests known as sea trials. The captain of the Disney Treasure, Captain Marco, will step on board to help oversee the trials and ensure the Disney Treasure is ready for its upcoming transatlantic journey. So yes, making its way to open water. It will do a lot of trials, testing the engines, testing everything out. They'll be fine-tuning a lot of things. And then, yes, once they feel it's ready and good to go, transatlantic, heading towards Port Canaveral for the maiden voyages coming up this December.
So exciting. Yeah. So cool.
Always great when the new Disney ship is ready to debut. Yeah. And it was beautiful. And I love if you went on the website, go on to Disney Parks blog, some pictures of it, because it's sailing down this river and there's herds of sheep and horses and stuff right by it. It's just such an interesting photo.
It is cute. Yes.
Yeah, very cute. Moving on, a longtime Magic Kingdom dining spot unveils a brand new menu that we're excited about, and we may be trying here coming up here maybe in a week. This from the Disney Parks blog. They said, starting earlier this week, Pecos Bill Telltale Inn and Cafe begins serving up a new, quote, create your own, end quote, menu concept. These new options are filled with Tex-Mex flavors inspired by the American Southwest. First, kick off your dining experience by picking a base, a steamed tamale, a rice bowl, a nacho bowl, or a Southwestern Caesar salad, followed by one of 3 delicious proteins, citrus chipotle chicken, green chili pork, or Coca-Cola cherry braised beef. Wow.
Nice.
If you're looking for some extra goods, you can double your protein portion or add a second one for an additional charge. I love the concept of creating your own dish. That sounds fun and interesting to me.
Yes. And considering we ate there not too long ago when we went for the soft opening of Tiana's, it had an okay menu, but this really looks intriguing for sure.
Something definitely we will be trying when we get out there next week for sure. We've already put it on the schedule of things we want to sample because that sounds great. Also, there are more than just these new bowl options, more than 3. Those new bowl options on the menu. There's also some new a la carte selections as well, including a double chili con queso burger and a grilled masa flatbread as well. They also have new barbecue cheddar seasoned French fries or charro beans to help as a side dish. And if you're looking for something sweet, how about sweet corn mousse and Mexican chocolate and horchata verrine?
I know. Sounds so good.
I can't wait to try all that stuff. Can't wait to try it. for sure. Lots of delicious options there. Finally, wrapping up the Disney stories with the week, because there's been a change at the top of Walt Disney Animation. This came from a Walt Disney Company press release. Academy Award-winning filmmaker Jared Bush has been named Chief Creative Officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios, effective immediately, so earlier this week, reporting to Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman, while Jennifer Lee has decided to return to filmmaking full-time to steward the Frozen franchise for the studio. Of course, serving as Chief Creative Officer for Walt Disney Animation Studios since 2018, Lee will be directing and writing on Frozen 3 and writing Frozen 4 with Mark Smith. She will also be executive producing of the latter film.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely her baby, right? I mean, she started with Frozen, was definitely the lead in the story production for Frozen 2. You could tell if you saw the documentary how endeared she was to those characters and that storyline. It makes sense to see her putting herself so much into the new stories that are coming out. It's important. They're important stories that I'm sure are going to be told. And I'm glad to see that she really wants to take the lead on that.
Yeah, I don't know if she started with Frozen. I think she did some things before, but I think Frozen was kind of
but I'm saying
really catapulted her to that role of where she
right.
took over as the Chief Creative Officer.
Like that, but she was at the beginning of Frozen. But you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, Bush has been with the studio for over a decade, receiving the Academy Award in 2022 for Encanto, one of our favorites, for which he was both director and writer, in the same year in which he was executive producer for the Oscar-nominated Raya and the Last Dragon. Bush was also co-director, co-writer on 2016's Oscar-winning Zootopia, writer of the original Oscar-nominated hit Moana, and received an Emmy Award for Zootopia Plus, which you can find on Disney Plus now. He serves as a writer and executive producer on the upcoming Moana 2 and is directing and writing Zootopia 2, set to release in fall of 2025. So he's done a lot of great stuff, has a lot of great stuff coming from him as well. This was a quote saying, quote, "I am so deeply grateful to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman for their faith in me, and thankful to Jennifer for her leadership and for her generous support as she embarks on the next chapters of Frozen." This was from Jared Bush. He went on to say, "Disney Animation is home to some of the greatest stories and characters of the past century, and I'm so excited to work with all our filmmakers, artists, and Disney Animation team members as we shape the future of this legendary studio together," end quote. This came from Jennifer Lee. She said, quote, "I am so grateful to Bob and Alan for supporting my decision to return to filmmaking full time. Every day working with them is a masterclass in creativity, business, community, and integrity. I've always believed in Jared's incredible talent and can't wait to see, with his passion and dedication to animation, what he brings to the CCO role. For me, getting to collaborate with a studio of artists, animators, and storytellers is such a privilege, and I look forward to all we will create together," end quote. Again, sounds like, look, I think Jennifer Lee had been in that position for a while, but she really wanted to focus on these Frozen movies because they're obviously going to be huge things. This is the first time ever Disney has done something like this, where they're basically putting together two animated movies back to back that they're going to, be, I think, telling one expanded storyline over two movies. So basically 4 hours of Frozen. I think she wanted to make sure that all her attention was on that.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, it's important, not just important stories, but it's important to the studios that these films are top notch and are successful.
Yeah, but she's done some great work there in that role. She'll continue to do great work within Walt Disney Animation, her new role. Jared Bush, same thing. He's done great work. He'll continue to do great work. And he has now the Chief Creative Officer, who can lead and inspire even more. Wanted to bring this up because this was something that came out of our interview, you may remember, with a couple of people from Disney Animation. Of course, they were the co-directors, co-writers of Once Upon a Studio, Dan Abraham and Trent Corey. They were talking about their pitch to Jennifer Lee. I thought this would be a good time to kind of revisit that real quickly. So check this out.
And in that pitch to Jennifer Lee was also that we want to bring back original voice actors, and that we want to do hand-drawn animation on paper, and that we want to bring animators out of retirement. That was all in the original pitch. So we kind of packaged this thing up together and got it on Zoom, and Dan started pitching.
Nobody knew that we were working on anything this whole time, obviously, and nobody was asking for an anniversary short on any level. So I pitched through all the storyboards, and I had to sing to her at the end. But when it was over, it was the ultimate. Well, we have talked about this so many times to each other about how we will never forget when, she said, I don't know how, but we have to figure out how to make this.
Well, and by the way, too, before she said that wonderful line, Dan finished the pitch, cut to black, and it was on Zoom. She got up and left screen with no explanation. And it felt like, it was probably only a few seconds, but it felt like forever. And Dan and I were like, oh.
We're looking at each other like, oh my God, what happened? Where did she go? What happened?
Yeah. And then she came back in, and she had a Kleenex, and her glasses were on her head. And she was wiping away tears, and she said, I don't know how, but we need to make this. We have to make this happen.
We couldn't believe it.
So I just wanted to share that again, because I think it was such a wonderful moment between these two creative people who were springing something on the chief creative officer for the first time. And I think it just shows a lot of Jennifer Lee's heart and understanding of what Disney Animation was. So credit to her while she was in that role. For sure.
Yeah, that was cool.
And also definitely go back and listen to that episode with Dan and Trent, because they're two amazing people who did phenomenal work, and Once Upon a Studio still continues to be amazing.
Yes.
So definitely go check back on that episode if you get the opportunity. Okay, that's it for the Disney Stories of the Week. However, we never leave you without giving you some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation. And when we do this, we always start with Michelle, because she's wonderful. All things great in the world. You know she does the best research. You just heard it a little bit ago. You just heard it. She also has the best lists. She also always has the very best tips. So let's get to it. Here's Michelle's tip of the week.
You're so cute and so sweet. So my tip, since we are in the midst of Epcot International Food and Wine Festival, I thought this might be helpful. If you're interested in doing the Emile's Fromage Montage, which is where, as you sample some of the designated cheese dishes, you get a stamp in your booklet passport for the Food and Wine Festival. And then once you get, I believe it's 5 of them, then you get to have a special treat. But anyways, and this is for all of the festivals, if you are starting your book and getting some stamps, and the next time you visit, you forget to bring that booklet, just start another one. You don't have to do another complete one. You can then bring the 2 booklets once they're together to the redemption location and get your prize. So let's say you got 2 stamps on one booklet, and then you went back and you forgot that one, and you got some additional ones. The next time you go, just bring the 2 booklets together. They'll count and combine them all and give you your redemption. So.
Right. Assuming you're going to get the opportunity to come back.
Yes.
Obviously, it's best to try and keep them all together, but we forget all the time. It happens.
Right.
It happens. But if you are somebody who gets to go frequently, yes, it's cumulative.
Right.
You can just show them 2, 3, 5 books with 1 stamp in them each.
Right.
Whatever. It will all work towards getting you your treat.
Right.
So
yes,
good
exactly.
Good to know. Michelle's tip. Always the best tip. My tip, really quickly, was something I wanted to bring up last week, but we ran long. Running long again today. We are so long-winded. But I did want to bring this up because maybe you didn't get the chance to get that dinner or that brunch at Palo. So maybe you're not going to get the chance to sample their amazing pizza. But there is a way you can still do that. They have a bar in Palo. At least they do in the Magic and the Wonder. They have a bar there that you can go into without a reservation. You can just go up to and check in with the maitre d' and say, I just want to go to the bar, get a wonderful glass of wine, order a pizza, maybe some of the other wonderful dishes they have there. I mean, I'm not going to say you're going to be able to have a full meal there, but if you're just looking for something simple like that, they were willing to help you out. We had this confirmed by our server at our brunch that, if you want to come by, have a glass of wine, have a pizza, you can do it. And believe me, you want to have that pizza. It's really, really good.
Right. I mean, the one thing that they do request is consider the dress code still, that when you're going
Not
in
showing
there.
up in shorts and flip-flops.
Right. But it is definitely a way, if you aren't able to get the reservations, to still have a great taste of some wonderful dishes.
Or even if you were able to get a reservation and you just like one night, you just don't feel like doing the dining room and you don't want, Pinocchio's pizza. You're looking for something a little elevated. That's one way to do it.
Exactly.
Something nice, or just to celebrate, whatever it might be. Definitely check that out. So that's it for this week's show. Next week, well, this Wednesday, September 25th, Pixar's smash hit Inside Out 2 will make its Disney Plus debut. We're very excited to be able to watch it on Disney Plus. And we also thought that this would be a good time to express our emotions about Pixar films. We're going to count down our 5 favorite emotional Pixar films, right, Michelle?
Right. Yeah. So scenes from any of the Pixar films. It doesn't have to be just Inside Out, but yes, things that touched our emotions.
Yes.
Specifically.
And we are planning planning a Walt Disney World trip for later in the week, so we'll probably be recording this a little early just for your schedule. It doesn't really mean anything. It'll be dropping on the same day. That is assuming because there's some weather bubbling up in the Gulf right now. And we don't know where it's going for sure. It could affect us here. Probably not terribly, maybe a little bit of nasty storminess, but probably not extremely. But it could affect our Walt Disney World Resort stay because we have a plan to stay in the Fort Wilderness cabins, the newly updated Fort Wilderness cabins. And when the winds get significant and it gets significantly stormy, sometimes they close those down just for safety purposes. So we're just hoping that this is it makes it through and we still get to do that. But we'll see.
Right.
Either way, our plans are for that for right now.
Yeah. Get back to tasting some Epcot too.
Yeah, and that'll be another thing we'll do. More food and wine for you.
Yes.
So, as for today's show, we appreciate that you join us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. Also, we are on social media. We're on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you are on Facebook, come on over and join us for some good, positive Disney energy fun on our Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group. Also, we are on YouTube, and this episode, again, the main topic of this episode is going on YouTube sometime later this week. If you want to find us there, we're at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And if you ever want to contact us for any reason, please hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already given this podcast a review, a 5-star review, a rating, we would really appreciate it.
Yep. We appreciate everybody who's already given us a review and anybody who will give us a review in the future. And if you do give us a 5-star review, we will read it on the air and give you credit, 100% credit for it. And thank you significantly more.
Right.
So that's it. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. Until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.
Bye.